Let's get Eurified.
So since we talked about a perverted Yuri manga in my last video, I thought to myself, why not take the time to cleanse ourselves by talking about another perverted Yuri manga. You might have heard of it. It's called Sekai de Ichiban Oppai ga Suki, aka breasts are my favorite things in the world. Now, I've been following this series since it first started in 2017, and suffice to say, I've been indoctrinated in the fellowship of the boobs ever since. Never before has a manga opened my eyes so clearly or touched my heart so deeply. And yet somehow a manga completely laser focused on the female mammary gland has made me into a believer. So I thought I'd share the gospel by proposing this holy book finally transition into animation. It's actually been a topic on my mind for a while now, and with the recent ending of the series, I thought now would be the best time to discuss what Sekai Oppai looks like in anime form. And obviously, since I'll be going over fine details of the manga, there will be spoilers, so be warned. Anyway, let's dive into this trench-sized cleavage, shall we? So let's refresh ourselves on what this Yuri rom-com series is about. Ichihara Chiaki is a high school girl known far and wide for her handsome beauty and prim and proper appearance. However, underneath that princely exterior lies a truly frightening beast. A beast completely obsessed with indulging itself in boobs. And a particular pair she set her sights on are those belonging to the magnificently endowed Harumi Hana. And thus, we follow these two on their wacky, romantic, and slightly lewd booby-loving adventures. By the way, feel free to take a swig every time I say boobs in this video. I'm sure you won't get alcohol poisoning. So there's the rundown of the plot. And the first thing I want to do is bring up the author and her work real quick. Wakame Konbu is her name, and to put it simply, she's best known for her love of comedy, boobs, dark-skinned gals, boobs, Yuri, boobs, and more boobs. I mean, that's just speculation on my part. Your guess is as good as mine. Anyway, all this dedication led to two of her mangas becoming animes. That being The Great Jahi Will Not Be Defeated, and The Maid I Hired Recently is Mysterious. Now, funnily enough, both shows were animated by Silver Link, which makes them an obvious choice for a Sekai Oppai anime. And that's totally fine with me. I mean, they do some good work after all. Okay, so now that we have a potential studio, what about the voice actors? Well, apparently they made a drama CD for the manga at some point, and if you're not familiar with what that is, it's essentially an acoustic performance where they have actors voice out dialogue from the manga and paint an auditory picture of the series for you. Basically a radio drama. And usually these are good indications that a series will receive an anime project later down the road. Now, I personally haven't had the chance to listen to them, so I can't speak on their quality. Also, I'm not too sure how often they bring actors from radio dramas into actual anime recordings. I can't imagine they're that much different in terms of professionalism, but I suppose if the actors sound good enough, then there's no reason not to bring their talents over to an anime setting. So yeah, looks like we got at least 5 cast members with voices. And also, this gave me a good chuckle. Apparently they got actors to voice out the sound of the boobs too, like the sound of them being groped and all that. Holy crap. Alright, so now I want to address the big honking elephant in the room, which is basically how they will animate the boob groping and the nudity that comes with it. Obviously, the transition from drawings to animation comes with some massive changes, so just imagine the differences between a still image of 2 girls groping each other and an actual animated clip of 2 girls groping each other. It's almost incomparable. So here's the thing, the manga first started out with clothed groping, and after a very short amount of time, let it all hang out full-blown nudist colony style. Okay, that's a bit of an exaggeration, but technically all the boob groping scenes at some point became skin on skin, and occasionally you get some of the old nip slips too. So as you could imagine, this would make things rather difficult to animate, especially if you want this to be PG-13. I don't know why, but for some reason I expect an anime like this to aim for a PG-13 rating. For one, to capitalize on a larger audience as opposed to an R rating, and 2, to make it more about the wackiness of the situation as opposed to the TNA. The thing is, this series is a romantic comedy first and foremost, and not some kind of trashy piece of throwaway smut. And I think to get that point across, an anime like this needs to be executed with cleverness and moderation. Am I making any sense here? My biggest fear is that this will be treated like a run-of-the-mill hentai series for weirdos to flock to, where it's nothing but caveman brain thinking. Boobies! Ooga ooga, me likey! I think the majority of Sekai Oppai fans can agree with that sentiment. And at the same time, I'm also not saying that this series is some kind of Shakespearean-level piece of literature that deals with heavy philosophical themes. Far from it. It's just a straightforward comedy with some not-so-straight characters indulging in some young love naughtiness, and eventually discovering feelings that weren't there before. In my humble opinion, if it was R-rated and had full-frontal nudity, it might just cheapen the experience. And if it chooses to have censors all over the place instead, then it'll run the risk of royally annoying the audience, and potentially blinding them too. So what exactly can you do to tackle such a dilemma? Well, a few ways to handle this when your characters are getting a bit frisky together is to have their hands cover their cherries pretty much the entire entire time. Next, have plenty of close-up angles above their shoulders, and other unique cinematic angles. And finally, have lots of literal sound effects on screen like you see here, and have actors voice out the sound effects just like in the drama CD. This gives it a comedic tone, and allows your attention to be spread out more, while still maintaining that desired naughty effect. Also, for the love of all things Yuri and Holy, please don't make this a short throwaway anime. Historically, this results in some total stinkers. And just to clear things up, I'm not against having smut in anime. Obviously, with a series like Sekai Oppai, there definitely has to be a level of naughtiness in a potential animation. There's no getting around that. I'm just clarifying that we need to achieve a nice little balance that makes it non-one-dimensional. I mentioned before that the manga is primarily a wacky rom-com, and the hoot and the holler that we get is from seeing our two leads act like total dorks in the face of their crush. The boob-loving aspect is just a cherry on top, and adds some ridiculousness to the whole situation. Anyway, those are my thoughts on how a Sekai Oppai anime could work. I honestly want nothing more than to see a quality product from all this. Certainly an anime worthy of being on the same level, or even better than the manga. And if it can do that, then I'll be one happy son of a bitch. Also, if you have any suggestions on how an anime like this could be done, then I'm always open to hearing it. I also wanted to mention that generally a series like this would be somewhat problematic to make, due to the sexual nature. And the fact that it's full-blown Yuri makes it even more difficult, especially given the anime industry's low commitment to the genre. I mean, it has been getting better lately, don't get me wrong, but obviously there are still some naysayers who can't see how truly magnificent it is. I don't know, that's just my interpretation. But yeah, hopefully a Sekai Oppai anime is in the cards. I'm sure that'd make a lot of fans and boob enthusiasts happy. Alright, see you around.